Saturday just started. Got a good group today. Didn't have Captain Bear came out. We don't see Captain Bear every Saturday. So it's going to be an awesome ride today. I'll tell you that.
So we are back. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Louis Scott, and this is going to be another Paceline voiceover video of our group ride. What I was going to do on this one is talk about a little bit more advanced skills in pacelining. We've talked about very basic skills, how to position yourself dealing with the wind and things like that. So on this video, which is of our long Saturday route, the 60 miler, I wanted to take the opportunity to point out some of the things that happened on our ride. But first, I'm a big car fan. And the sound of that rotary engine, I believe that's an RX-3 or an RX-4, sounds like it's Bridgeported going by, just gets me every time. So yeah, I know that has nothing to do with pacelining, but I wanted to indulge myself a little bit, and those of you who are able to appreciate that type of stuff briefly on the video. But anyway, getting back to pacelining, one of the things that happens is, you know, when a group of people, when you ride together with them all the time, and there's kind of like a set ethos, everybody ends up kind of like having very similar form, very similar pedaling styles. There's going to be some nuanced differences, but you'll find that for the most part, there's a certain rhythm that we maintain on this ride, because we keep it paced and we keep it controlled. Nobody's trying to clobber anybody. We don't have any surges or breakaways. We do have a couple turn up zones, and that's understood, but for the most part, when we're riding as a paceline, we kind of keep it together. So the first thing that I'll point out here is the whole idea of helping each other out. And you'll see as we're starting to crest this little bit of a climb, Nash, second wheel on the right, gets a little help on his back from Zaid. Just nothing major, just pushing him into the gap. Now, pushing is one of those things that you can either get really right or you can get really wrong. I've seen people push who have no business pushing. I understand the good-heartedness behind it, but if you get it wrong, you actually end up not only bringing yourself or the person that you're pushing down, you could end up bringing people behind you down as well. Just as an example, I push with my right hand. I'm not very good at pushing with my left hand, and I kind of keep it that way. And it's important for you to realize, if you're gonna do it, which way you're comfortable doing it. It's a great tool to help keep the paceline together, but again, if you're not experienced with pushing people, leave it to the people who are able to do it. That's the first thing. Gentleman in front of me right here, Chris hasn't been riding with us for very long, and my first experience with Chris is him riding next to me in a double paceline going into a headwind, and him just letting out like a big old gasp of air, like a sigh, where he just couldn't hold the pace any longer. And I mentioned that not to embarrass him, but actually give him kudos and props, because he just finished pulling the group for about a 2 or 3 mile stretch at 24-25 miles an hour, because he showed up consistently, he's put in the work, and he's really worked on becoming a better cyclist. One of the things that Chris and I talked about on this particular ride was the importance of your maintaining a steady cadence, and when the pace is steady, deviating your cadence very little. In other words, there's no need for freewheeling and things like that in a smooth running paceline. I've mentioned that on previous videos, and Chris has adapted to that swimmingly, and as a result, it's a pleasure having him on the ride. It's one of those things where Chris has been super coachable. He's really worked on becoming a better cyclist, which as you just pay attention to the pedaling stroke of everybody on here. Everybody's got a very good tight form. It's very predictable. We don't get a lot of stuff or mess where people are, all over the place with their riding. So that's a big deal. We're here on our turn-up zone now, where this is State Road 84. We keep it together for a little bit, but somebody wants to take off and go at it, they're able to do so. That Snake was the first one to go. Art Martin is deciding whether he wants to go. Leon in the black is going to keep it steady. And here's Chris. Chris realizes turn-up zone. Snake is gone. And Chris gets after it and goes after him. So I hang back because I'm always into energy conservation mode, and I'm just going to stay on Leon's wheel. And Leon is a good, steady cyclist, very strong, and he's just going to take it up, but he's going to hold a very strong tempo as we pull up State Road 84. By the way, one of the back in the day when I first started riding, people were very good about coaching others in terms of, little things that you could do to actually improve. And it wasn't just, stupid advice. It was things that were actually good for you as a cyclist that would help you get better, but also keep the group safe. One of the things that I found is people aren't always very open to receiving information. It's like we've got so many people, everybody thinks that they're a coach or they're an expert. I certainly don't think I'm a coach or an expert. I'm still learning, but there are some things, some basic things that I think I can help people out with, and I do. And I just as a word of advice, I think if you do see something and you're certain that you can help a person become better, I think you should share it. But I think maybe the way how you approach a person can be one of those things. Like if I'm going to share something with somebody, I introduce myself to them and I ask them, I say, is it okay to share something with you? They'll say yes or no. And if they say yes, I'll go ahead and tell them what I observed and what I think they could do better, and keep it moving. In any event, so this was a very good feeling for me, sitting on Leon's wheel and having Zaid and Cade come around, and these guys started taking the pace up. There's another group in front of us that has nothing to do with us. It's cycling team Galiz, who rides along in this route. In fact, that red truck that you see us getting ready to go by, that's their SAG vehicle, and their SAG driver, very attentive. As he realized that we were closing the gap on their group, he kind of came out and got out of the way to make it easier for us to get through, but he also positioned himself behind us just as a good gesture of protecting both groups. So we're getting ready to go by Galiz right here. We're going to line up in a single file and pass them on the left. If you come across another group on a ride, if you're able to, don't pass them on the ride. On the right, that's a big no-no. Nobody expects that. Do the best you can to pass them safely on the left-hand side, just like you would with a car. I guess in the UK or places like that, it'd be different. That was Recumbent John we just went by. And I don't believe this is their A group. I believe this is Galiz's B group, if I'm not mistaken. Which another point here I wanted to make is, if you are in a group and a group is passing your group, don't speed up, because when you speed up, you make it more difficult for the group that's already caught you and getting ready to pass you. Just let him go by. If anything, slow down a bit just to give them the opportunity to get past you quicker. It's better for both groups, and it's safer for both groups, and it's also less of an encumbrance for motor vehicles. Just something to keep in mind. And that's not only true for situations where one group is passing another group. It's also true when a group is passing a single individual or two or three people. Sometimes a group is passing you, you're there on your own, and the minute the group starts passing you, you start speeding up, and you're making it more difficult for them to get past you safely. So just something to keep in mind. So on here, we have gotten past Galiz, not our entire group for the most part. I think about five or six of us went past Galiz, and the rest kind of like either stayed back behind them and rode in with them. We know a lot of the guys who ride with Galees. So we're gonna we start doing a Paceline, rotating Paceline, and it gets a little bit raggedy. We need to do a little bit of coaching on this because everybody was not in sync. Usually in this type of situation, a rotating Paceline, what you want to do is you just want to you take your pull and you flick your elbow out and you pull out to the opposite side of the elbow that you flicked out. And you'll see that demonstrated here in a minute, but we're going to get our stuff together and we're going to get a couple good turns and you kind of get an idea of how this is done. I have another video coming up, part 2, where I show this being performed properly, not with the single Paceline but with the double Paceline. So here we are in single Paceline. I believe Zaid is in the front and Zaid is going to pull off shortly over to the right. Oh, actually it was Art. Oh, it is Zaid. Zaid pulls off. Art pulls off. What Chris should do is keep riding and going around Art and pulling over to the right. He didn't. He pulled over to the right. So Adrian goes through. Adrian's going to pull over immediately to the right. I'm going to go through. And I'm going to pull over immediately to the right. Sherwin comes through. Immediately pulls over to the right. Zaid comes through. And something's amiss. We missed the caboose. Somebody didn't hook up to the back of Zaid when we were coming through. I wasn't looking behind me to see what was going on, but for this to work properly, the person who was behind Zaid should have come through, followed him through, and pulled over. So we got Zaid again taking a long pull in the front with Sherwood following and me in tow. But you get the idea of how this is supposed to be done properly. So you saw it working great for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then it doesn't take much to actually screw up a Paceline, whether it's a double Paceline or a single Paceline. And those are things that coaching, communication will take care of that. And it's obviously one of the reasons I'm doing this video is so that people can learn how to do this properly. So Zaid pulls off. Sherwin comes through. Flick of the elbow. No need to wave, take your hands off the bar or any of that kind of stuff. Flick of the elbow, move to the opposite side. I come through. Flick of the elbow. Adrian comes through. And voila, that's it. We're getting ready to peel off. So in any event, that's it, folks. I hope you benefited somewhat from that. Thanks for tuning in to the video.